All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to Championing Reuse at Events panel. My name is Ashima Sukhdev. I'm the Climate and Circular Economy Policy Advisor with Seattle Public Utilities with the City of Seattle, and I'll be moderating this discussion today. I'm delighted to be joined by a wonderful panel. I'm just going to get the slides up. We have a lightning 30 minutes to get through this topic of reuse at events. So bear with us. We'll do this quickly and get into some good content. So I'm joined by 4 panelists, all of whom have been playing a significant role in advancing reuse, not just here in Seattle, but more broadly across the country. Firstly, we have Jocelyn Quarrell, CEO and co-founder of Bold Reuse. We have Mark Trudeau, who's the National Sales Director of r.World. We have Cindy Arasim, who's the Business Program Manager with Xbox Tech and Suppliers. And finally, we have Reese Tanamura, who's the Managing Director of Northwest Folklife. So this panel is sponsored by Reuse Seattle, which is a city-led partnership to support reuse in food service. And before we dive in and I bring in my panelists, I wanted to just provide some context on what we actually mean by reuse at events. I think you're all probably quite familiar with what we mean by single-use at events. Think about a coffee cup or a plastic bowl that you might pick up at a food truck at an event. Maybe your beer at a beer garden is served to you in a single-use cup. Even if those pieces are recyclable or compostable, at the end of the day, you can see that they're just single-use. They're only used once. On the other hand, we want Seattle businesses to move towards reusable packaging. So the simple idea is that this type of food packaging can be washed and then reused again, hundreds of times. There's a number of reasons why this is a very good idea, which you'll hear more about from our panelists. There's economic benefits, there's environmental benefits, and increasingly we're seeing more regulation as well emerge in this space. Already in Seattle, we have requirements that for on-site dining, including events, packaging has to be either compostable or reusable, and we're only going to see more regulation come up in this space. So with that, I want to bring in our panelists. Both Jocelyn and Mark are with reuse service providers, and Cindy and Reese have been involved in events that have reused reuse. So we're going to hear a few different perspectives. Jocelyn, maybe starting with you, and then Mark. Could you tell us about your respective companies and the reuse services that you provide? Maybe also mention an example of an event that you've operated at to bring it to life for folks.
Sure. Thanks, Ash. Appreciate it. Hi, friends. Jocelyn Quarrell. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bold Reuse. We're a women-owned company headquartered just down the way in Portland, Oregon. And we've been working to scale reuse since 2011, so have quite a bit of experience in this space. We're really excited to see how the interest is really growing to help make events more sustainable. So our mission is to eliminate single-use waste by making reuse easy. And we really provide a holistic approach to implementing reuse into events to fit our clients' needs. And that includes everything from operations to implementation strategies and tracking that positive impact that we can generate as well. We have a deep experience working across a wide range of clients, everything from a single food truck to a corporate or a school campus, to a major event, everything to a professional sports stadium. And we're really product and material agnostic. So if you've got something you want us to wash, we can help you do that. Again, our goal is to really make reuse easy, and we try to do that by recreating the feeling of convenience that you might be familiar with through single use. So how that works in real life is prior to your event, we're going to show up at your warehouse or your site. We're going to drop off cases of reusable cups or packaging that you can then distribute internally. And then after the event, we'll collect those in liner bags and we'll make them disappear just like a waste management company would. But rather than it going to the landfill, we backhaul it to our facility. process it, make sure it's safe for reuse again, sanitize it, and then re-deliver it or reuse it at another event. A few specific examples. So in Portland, we've been working at the Moda Center, which is where the Portland Trailblazers play. We've enabled that entire stadium for all sports, arts, music events to have reusable cups for every beer, wine, and cocktail served. We just hit, I think it's 400,000 cups eliminated in the last 6 months, so we can generate very quickly super positive impact. And again, we're all about making it super easy for you. Our expansion here to Seattle started in 2011, working with Starbucks for a reusable cup pilot. We've just been expanding our service footprint from there, working at Reese from Folklife, working with Seattle Public Schools, and some exciting clients that I can't yet announce, but we'll be launching with this summer.
Great, thank you. Mark, tell us about r.World.
Awesome, thanks Ash. And then thanks for the panels. I think we're all doing great work up here. So appreciate you guys taking time out of your day, out of your work week to be up here. And Jocelyn, thanks for coming out as well. So I think r.World, we are a turnkey system for reuse, whether it be events, brick and mortar venues, anything that has single use, we're going to figure out how to work with you. So we provide unique custom solutions to the venue or the event based on what you need. So started in 2017, we've eliminated over 1 million cups here in Seattle alone. We're in 7 states, 44 cities across the country. Our co-founder has been in the our founder has been in the sustainability industry since 1990. Worked with some of the bands like U2 touring the world. Dave Matthews, things like that, was the chief sustainability officer for U2 for a while. So really has environment in his background, and you see that in a day-to-day operation for r.World. So we try to stay within 30 miles of our wash hub. Our wash hub here in Seattle is in Georgetown. We work with economic development areas to try and revitalize the community. Our goal isn't to just be a vendor. We don't want to just ship cups all over the country. We want to get involved with the community, with the governments. We want to work to change policy. We want to be able to continue the movement, and our overall goal is to build the national reuse infrastructure for America. So once we tackle America, then it's off to Canada, Mexico, kind of around the world, but let's start with what we can control. And that's right, today we're talking to Northwest folks, and that's where we want to go. Some of the examples here in Seattle, Ballard Seafood Festival. Last summer we were there. 98% of our cups came back to us, which is fantastic. It's huge. We're fighting plastic with plastic right now, so the more we get back, the better off we will be. We've also worked Microsoft, which I know Cindy will talk about a little bit more here. And then we just signed a contract with the city of Issaquah. So they have 7 events coming up over the next 14 months, and we'll be providing reuse cups and dishware for all of their events.
Great, thank you. Cindy, I might jump to you now. So you have been working with r.World to bring reuse to events at Xbox and Microsoft. Could you tell us a little bit about those events, what motivated you to make the switch, and what were the impacts that you saw at the event itself?
Yes, well, I recognized our cup from the Reusable Awards. There's Reusable Awards that are given out every year, and I saw that they won an award, and I thought, you know what, we really need to implement this at our events that we have, because it's really low-hanging fruit when you're looking to make impact when it comes to single-use plastic. So there's also a project called the Plastchem Project that is being organized by some, I can't remember which Scandinavian country, it may be all of them, but they're documenting the amount of toxins that are in plastics. And right now they've documented 16,000 toxins in plastics, and they're still going. And so all along the supply chain, the toxins impact from extraction to consumption and transport and end of life. The toxicity in plastics impacts everything, living things, people, the environment. So it was pretty easy to find that as kind of the low-hanging fruit opportunity to try to make a dent in plastic that is everywhere. So we have a pretty big event that we have every year that is aligned with our giving campaign, which we do every October. And at Xbox, we have an event called Givetoberfest. And it just felt like such a natural fit to have r.Cup come in and begin to talk about a circular solution for that event. I think I've heard anecdotally from people that have attended the event, they were really excited about the fact that we were making a change and we were making an impact and we were involving circularity. I think there's a lot of people out there that are pretty frustrated and anxious about the climate. I know that there's climate depression and anxiety that happens, and I think when people see a solution that is really making an impact and not just greenwashing, it's real stuff that's happening, I think they feel a sense of relief. We have a lot more work to do, but I know that the attendees of the event, the ones that I talked to, felt pretty happy that something was being done and that we were taking it seriously and finding a solution.
That's great. Thank you for sharing, Cindy. Reese, I'd love to come to you now to talk about the Northwest Folklife Festival. How did you decide to make the switch from single use to reuse? And again, what was some of the impacts that you saw at the event?
Sure. Good morning, aloha. My name is Reese Tanimura. I'm the managing director of Northwest Folklife, she, they pronouns. And first of all, to answer that question, let me step back and say that I would like to acknowledge that we're sitting on indigenous lands and stewarding that land, right? The Duwamish, Suquamish, Muckleshoot, the Coast Salish folks that have been here since time immemorial. And from our perspective as an organization that is steeped in folk life and culture, and making that land acknowledgement at every meeting and event that we have a responsibility to act in a way that is actually actionable in that stewardship. And so our event, pre-pandemic, grew 250,000 people a year. That's 250,000 people in 4 days. Post-pandemic, 150,000, that's still significant. It is not ticketed. It is open to the public. So I think on those two levels alone, to understand the number of people passing through in a very short amount of time, and then multiplying that on what goes on at the Seattle Center, it became imperative that we think about the small ways that we can take a step-by-step, actionable path towards sustainability. It's really hard to think about, especially for an event like ours that's unwieldy. We're a nonprofit organization. We don't have a ticket price. So all these things, you know, there are a lot of challenges, but unless we start doing something, we're not upholding to our part of that stewardship when we do that acknowledgement. So that was an easy decision to try to do something. So sought out partners to do a small step, which, because we're an open borders festival, it is really hard to think about maybe like a whole festival thing, which would be amazing, but that would also take a culture shift of folks really understanding that maybe souvenirs are other things, not the food waste or the food containers and cups and things like that. So we partnered with Bold Reuse in 2023 in our beer gardens, which is nice and confined. We have 3 of them. And then in our hospitality area, where we have about 3,500 performers and presenters going through over the 4 days. And so we were able to keep 10,000 cups out of the waste stream in this one sort of entryway into this. And we're looking forward to working with them again this year at our festival, number 53.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Maybe staying with Cindy and Reese, it sounds like the events and the process went smoothly with switching to reuse. I'm sure there were some bumps along the way or some challenges that you encountered, or just something that you as event organizers were worried about. Could you just share in a few minutes what something you were worried about was going into this, and then how you managed to overcome that?
I'll share 2 sides of that. One was just, I think, small things like how to communicate. So we have a program guide. We did put a thing in our program guide. We're going to do this, and it's new, and please participate. You know, we found out, we did some signage. We found out we could have been better at signage. I think it's just the idea of, like, people are used to recycling cups, and if it if it looks plastic or whatever, it looks recyclable, they'll just throw it in the recycle. We had an amazing staff member who went in the recycling and made sure that there were no cups in the recycling. So
Nice.
there was like some tenacity there. But I think part of it is just communication. I think a lot of our folks are really conscious about that, and if they know, they will try to participate. So as you know, an event provider, the learning is like, how do we talk about it both from our stages, from our program guide, from the the signage we have up in the areas that the reuse is happening. The other challenge I just want to mention, being a cultural organizer in a space where a lot of my colleagues are coming at events where they are unpaid or underpaid organizers, they're doing it with volunteers within their community. I think I understand the impacts that we have, bringing plastics and bottled water and all those things to events. The challenge does come down to cost, right? In a beer garden, we were able to tuck a little bit of the cost into the price of the product. When we talk about asking vendors to do that, especially in an open borders thing when we don't know whether it's going to come back or not, vendors that are already, like food vendors that are already operating at very low margins, they're all small businesses. Many of them don't even have brick and mortar. When we ask cultural organizers doing festal events or events throughout the community, it becomes a matter of cost. If we can get past that hurdle, we can get some partnership, some initial sponsorship to get people in the habit of doing that. I think that will be that in itself will help that culture shift. But we do need that investment because, like I said, we're a nonprofit. A lot of my colleagues that I directly work with are folks that are doing this sometimes out of their own pockets. So I think, that is one thing to think about. There are bigger ticketed events, commercial events that can assume some of that cost into the ticket. When we're doing it for public benefit, that doesn't work as well. So
Exactly. And to that point, the city of Seattle is really cognizant of that, and for that reason, we are offering incentives for event organizers to adopt reuse to make that kind of pilot year a little bit easier and to help absorb costs. So do come talk to us about that. Cindy, what were you worried about? Or your colleagues, what were folks worried about?
I was really worried about buy-in, which is kind of silly because everybody I talked to was so supportive about the idea and they wanted to do it and they realized that plastic is everywhere and they'd love to reduce. But what I wasn't prepared for was the ramp-up time for planning for larger events. I wanted to do events that were maybe a month away, but and also knowing who to talk to. So there's no sustainability in my professional title, but I would argue that it's everybody's job to think sustainably regardless of what your role is. And I started with a couple people that I knew would know who to talk to about events. But once I talked to them, I was kind of sad to learn, you mean we can't do the Eco Challenge in April? And they were like, no, we're gonna have to aim for October when we do the Givetoberfest event. So you need a lot of ramp-up time. And I would say, if I had to do it over, I would talk to as many people as I could, as soon as I could, and I would get as many recommendations of other people to talk to. Because I don't work in events professionally in my job, I don't know who all the right contacts are. And so often you can find out who that is by just talking to people. They'll give you recommendations. And then another challenge we had at our event was logistically, there was one area that we had like a Minecraft supply sale, and we forgot about that. So people brought so many of the R-Cups and the pretzel boats into that room to buy the t-shirts and stuff, and we didn't consider that. So make sure you have a really awesome, watertight logistics plan about where people are gonna be tracking and carrying their stuff. The last one was suppliers. Setting our cup up as a supplier at Microsoft, I think will help in the future. I'm trying to drive awareness about these events in the future, and that is, I know, gonna make a really big difference because our cup has signed an NDA. They've gone through onboarding that our suppliers are required to go through at Microsoft. And so that was one more thing I think that'll really make it an easy process. But once we talked with our cup, They already have it all figured out. I mean, they pick it up, they drop it off. They do a lot of the same things that Bold was talking about as well. And so we don't have to think about anything. The training, we did a little bit of training, but people really understood where to put the cups, and it was a great success.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. I'll come back to Mark and Jocelyn now. So from a reuse service provider perspective, how much of what Cindy and Reese have said on challenges resonates? Do you see that across your events? And how do you kind of convince people that actually this is a really positive thing for your event and you can overcome those challenges and hurdles? Would love for you both to share on that. Whoever would like to go first.
So I think they hit the nail on the head. I think changing human behavior is hard. And for the last 30 years, we've been promoting recycle, recycle, recycle. And we've kind of dug ourselves into this hole of everything should be recycled. And so, as Reese mentioned, people are so used to putting plastic into the blue bin with the triangle on it that that's what we want to do. And now we're trying to create a movement of human change to stop doing that and give us back the utensils, the silverware, the cups, the buckets, everything that we want back so that we can wash it, repack it, sanitize it, and send it back out. Cindy mentioned that we do training, right? So I think that's a big thing, is get the communication started early. Talk to people, talk to the wrong people, because those are going to be the same people that influence the right people. And so the more conversations we can have is the faster we're going to be able to change human behavior. And so for us, we do that through education, training. We will work events. We will bring in a staff to help with the top sorting. As Reese mentioned, she had the guy that was dumpster diving, we call it. I know there's got to be a prettier term for it, but that's what it is. I mean, you're digging through garbage cans. We have 600 people that we work with.
Dedication.
Thank you. That's way better than it's dumpster dedication. And so, anything that we can do in an effort to move it forward, changing human behavior is by far the biggest obstacle we run into.
Fantastic. Jocelyn, how about you?
Yeah. They, as Mark mentioned, they really did hit the nail on the head. So, our approach, every event is a little bit different. We want to be really collaborative with our clients to develop a solution that's going to work best for your needs. We're really fast learners, and we see every implementation as an opportunity to learn how to do reuse better. We don't have it all figured out yet. We're learning every single day. We have a playbook, though, right, that we can replicate pretty easily. There's some standardization that we can just check those boxes pretty easily, and then allow more opportunity to where those areas we need to lean into, where the unique aspects of your layout or logistics that we need to spend a little bit more time on. Return rates, as we've all been discussing, this is really important. That's how we make that impact. And so, as has already been mentioned, I think two things are really important. One is the front of house consumer education, so point of sale signage, return bins where those products are being returned to, making that very clear and easy. But I also think that sorting is a necessary component for success at this stage, for sure. And you can either do top sorting, which is like during the event, you just kind of peek into the bins and move those reusable cups that might have entered in a different bin, like a landfill bin or a compost bin, redirect them to the reuse bin. Or some of our clients, like the Moda Center, they're doing a full post-event sort. So they're going through every single bag that they collect to make sure that they're capturing reusables. They're also making sure that they then have clean stream of recyclables and a clean stream of compostables, which is important from a financial perspective because they get penalized, if they send contaminated streams to traditional waste haulers. And I'm glad that Reese mentioned the sponsorship angle too. We're seeing a lot of opportunity. One of the ways that we kind of differentiate ourselves is we don't mind being in back of house. We're here to make you successful. We want you to shine, and we want your customers to feel like reuse heroes. And so there's an opportunity to customize the products that you use at your events and have a sponsor logo available there or at the signage or digital activations. And that's a real opportunity for you because you can change your packaging from an expense on your bottom line to a revenue driver for your business. So last thing I wanted to touch on was the timing, huge component of it, although with Reese, we set it up in like 2.5 weeks. So again, we can move fast when there's an opportunity, and we know that like we have this plug and play model, but yeah, very much so. Start those conversations early so that we can have the runway to be really specific to what your needs are for whatever event it is you're organizing.
Great. We only have a few minutes left. I know that's flown by. I wanted to wrap up with each of you just sharing maybe one piece of advice for a first-time reuse hero, someone who's in the audience, who's an event organizer thinking about it. What would you say to them to both encourage them to do it and then practically what's going to help them the most as they're thinking about adopting reuse at their events? Free for all. So whoever's got the first answer, go for it.
I mean, I was just thinking, you know, some colleagues and I who run festivals in the music and arts scheme, festivals have an festivals and small events have an enormous amount of social impact opportunity in that you're gathering people, they're feeling good, they really want to be there, and as Mark was saying, you know, sometimes when their favorite musicians or their favorite artists are really into a thing, they open up to it a little bit more, they think about it a little more. So I think there's a big opportunity, whether it's the scale of ours, you know, 250,000 people, or if it's like, you know, 50, 500 people, if you can take a step and do one thing, that is one more thing that we're doing and that many less things going into the garbage. So that's my encouragement. We have the opportunity as event providers, so.
I would say, in addition to what Reese said and agreeing, is just start. Make a presentation, talk to someone. If you're the events person, talk to your team. Working with Bo, who's over there, was so easy. So get in contact with someone like Bo. And also, if you're a corporation, there was a study done about what truly drives the needle in impacting reuse and driving reuse behavior. And one of it was, I think the top way is encouraging your social network and your community to lead by example. So if you can encourage any of your executives or anyone that's ever on camera to hold a reusable instead of a disposable, that kind of social impact goes a long way. People see that, and that is how they change their behavior.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I would say, kind of like they were saying, just get started. Make a phone call, and you know, whether it's me, whether it's Jocelyn, just call. Let's have that conversation, because a lot of what we're doing is education, and it may not be right for you today, but as you continue to work events, you will continue to see this across the industry. We're building a movement. We're building an industry. It is a huge undertaking. Education will be key, and when you get the bids, when you get the quotes, ask questions. Where were these cups made? How much environmental impact am I going to have? Reese had it on the top of her head, 10,000 cups. I'm sure Cindy has it on the top of her head. What kind of environmental impact are we going to make as an organization, whether it be for a social media post or just the warm and fuzzies, because those are just as important, because we are doing the right things. You know, what's included in this program. Jocelyn's talked a lot about what we do in order to activate events. It's not a set it and forget it type of situation. We want to work with you, so just start the conversation. Just call.
Yeah, be brave, be bold. Now's the time. I got to drop that one in. Change is hard. Change is scary, especially when you're trying to put forth your very best for your fans, right? You don't want to risk or chance not putting your best foot forward. So, but starting these conversations, speak to all of us and speak to others in your community. We're on a learning trajectory here, and we're just going to keep making it better and better every day. So thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you all. To my wonderful panelists, thank you for sharing your stories. Please do, after this session, come see us at the Reuse Seattle exhibition booth right over there. My colleague's waving. We have a lot of wonderful samples, case studies of other events that have done this before. So please come on this journey with us on reuse. And thank you again to our panelists. Take care.
And you can come see it in action at the Folklife Festival, May 24th through 27th, and you don't have to buy a ticket. So come and see it in action.
Absolutely.
Or at the Wine Walk in Magnolia, end of April.
Exactly. Plenty of events to experience reuse firsthand at. Thank you. Take care.